As a beginner property investor, there's a lot of things to actually consider.
Property investing might sound intimidating. You might even be asking yourself, where do I start?
Or which strategy am I actually going to be using?
Financing, how do I go about financing?
So tune in to make sure that we answer all of your questions.
Hope that you guys have subscribed.
So the question that we'll be answering today is that how do you buy your first rental property?
It's very important that we actually engage on this topic because a lot of people think that it's quite simple going into property investing, whereas it's not. I mean, you look at buying a property for personal use, right? I go to Property 24, I see the first development that I like, I buy it. However, now when it comes to property investing, there's so much more that actually comes with it that one needs to consider before buying a property.
Let's get into content. So the first point that we'd actually like to highlight is that what strategy are you actually implementing in your property investing as far as your rental? So now in rental, there are various ways of actually investing in property. So now say for instance, you bought this property and you want to rent it out. It's either you're going to go for your short-term lease in terms of your Airbnb, in terms of your bookings.com, or it's either you're going to lease it out the normal way in terms of leasing it out to a family.
So now what we're saying is that as much as there is strategy in terms of rental, but now looking at the subtopics under rental when it comes to strategy, what does one actually focus on? So let's go deeper into that. When we're talking about the subtopics into rental, is that are you specifically looking at renting out development? Are you specifically looking at renting out a house, a single house? Or are you specifically looking at renting out multi-let? All of these subdivisions have their pros and cons. And it's very important as a property investor to understand before investing. So what usually happens is that somebody has the credits, they have the cash, they just buy the first property. Let's just say the initial strategy was rental. However, now they went for development, only to find out after some time that I did not know these are the cons that come through with development. So as much as we are property investors and we love distressed property investing, there are so many cons that do come with property investing, and we are well aware of these. Hence, when they do come up, we did have knowledge about that. So what you need to do right now is that if you are about to invest, or if you do want to invest in the near future and you're like, but I didn't think there might be a con when it comes to development or when it comes to apartments, hit the link below and let's have a conversation about how can we add value towards your journey.
Most definitely, Neil. So now you spoke about people actually hitting the link and actually booking a Zoom meeting with us, right? Yeah. That puts you on to the second point that we would like to speak about, is that who do you actually need in your team so that you are able to actually work in a way that is actually sustainable, especially when you're looking at your rental. When you're looking at buying a property to rent it out, it is very important to understand that what kind of property are you actually buying. So are you buying a property that was distressed? Are you buying a property that someone just needed a quick way out of that particular property? The reason why this actually comes into effect is that when you're running your numbers, you need to make sure that you have actually accounted for the time that you will be refurbing the property if you're buying a distressed property. So now these are the kinds of things that you need to actually start thinking about before you go into that. And now based on your team, the number one thing that will make your journey easier is to have an agent, a management agent on your property, so that you actually detach yourself from this particular property. So now what a management agent does is that they will actually manage the people that are living in your property. Because now the last thing that you want is a call from a tenant telling you that something's wrong and you are 1,500 kilometers away from that particular property. So now looking at that, the agent actually makes it easier because they will be the one that will actually attend to that problem as soon as possible.
So what's happening right now is that we are actually assisting in terms of revamping a property. And yesterday, one of our clients actually was like, they gave us a call and they're like, "Gents, just send me your location and I will be there." He did come through and we had a chat. So with this chat, there's so many things that actually popped out, because when we were doing the course with him, it was more of giving somebody the content of how to implement if they're in such a situation, how to actually maneuver about it. And then now you have a conversation with them once they've been through whatever that you guys spoke about. So I want to just put something on the table to show you how massive it is that you need a team. You cannot invest alone. So just to go back to perspective, so what we do is that we do not only offer content, so we do also offer our network towards all our clients. So as soon as you come through, I said this to him yesterday, that you know, the experience that we have, you might be young, however the experience that we have in property investing is way older than my age. What do I mean about that? In my team, I've got experts. I've got somebody who's a conveyancer. I've got somebody who's a bond originator. I've got somebody who's a contractor. I've got somebody who's an accountant. The list goes on. And once you actually start having such a network, you are able to actually take strategic decisions that will actually put you at an advantage when it comes to your journey. The conversation that we had with our client yesterday, shout out to him, was based on his bond application. So what happened is that initially this was before reaching out to us, he had access to full bond at 8%. So we were like, no, don't go that route. Use our bond originator and let's see what can actually happen. I mean, you have absolutely nothing to lose by doing that. So he went that route, and then instead of 8%, he got 7%. I know somebody will be like, guys, 1%. When we're speaking about property, we're talking about something that's worth $1 million. If you could see what 1% does in terms of interest rate, that's crazy. So just to actually put perspective to the numbers, at 8%, he would actually be paying 6,022, want to get to the decimals right, 37 cents a month for the bond, right? And then at 7%, what he will be paying right now is 5,582.15 a month. So now let's look at the differences between the two. The difference is 440 rands, 22 cents a month.
So that might not be a lot, right? So let's put a microscope to this particular situation. So if I'm able to save 440.22 cents, that means that if I'm looking at it from an annual perspective, I would say that multiplied by 12, you are actually going to be saving 5,282.64. Still don't think that's a lot. Let's multiply that by the number of years that you will actually be holding this property, assuming that you're going to be holding it for the full length of the bond. That's 20 years, right? Multiply that by 20, you would actually have saved 105,652.80 cents. So now this is the reason why we're saying that you need a team on board so that you are able to actually save on unnecessary expenses that you might incur if you don't invest in your knowledge.
So it clearly goes back and shows you that 1% in property does mean 105,000 in 20 years. Big ups to everybody who's actually getting networks so that they're able to take strategic decisions going forward. And then let's go to financing.
No money down.
If you have not actually watched our previous video, do actually look at it and you actually see what do we mean by saying no money down. So with financing, no money down is relative. Little to no money down is relative from one person to another. And we need to consider something. I truly believe that getting money is the least of your problems when it comes to property investing. What if you are able to get access towards buying the property, only to find out that you cannot pay back the bank or you cannot pay back the investors at that agreed interest that you actually had a discussion with them? So it goes back to your network. How can you actually look at a property before buying it, run numbers before buying it, and actually create a whole template that is this property really worth it? Because with finances, once you have signed on the dotted line, there is no turning back. So what people actually find themselves in, they try to increase the rent so that they can cover. Whereas if all of my neighbors are actually charging 7,000 and I'm in a situation whereby I can't pay back my creditors, now I'm forcing rent to actually go up at 8,000 and it's identical properties, I'm in a situation.
Sure. No, you actually touched on something, right? When you said that you're going to actually be putting your price up. So now something that you need to remember is that when someone is looking for a property to rent, right? I mean, put yourself in their shoes, right? You are looking for a property to rent and you're seeing all of these properties that are saying 7,000 rand, 6,500, 7,000 rand. So they're playing around that price range. And then you see one that says 9,000. You won't even do the viewing. So that's something that you need to really consider if you're actually going to overprice your property, that if I do overprice my property, am I at least going to be getting the viewings? Because now the viewing is the really important part in property investing. So now that's why we need to actually start thinking about the finances. How do I get my finances? Am I going to go through the cash, or am I going to go through credit, or do I know someone that actually might be able to actually fund the property that I'm about to buy?
Just to give you perspective again on a practical example that we currently found ourselves in right now, is that with the overpricing issue, is that overpricing is more expensive towards you as the owner. What do I mean by saying that? If you are going to be getting an agent to assist you with placing a tenant, you need to actually pay them first month's payment, right? So let's just say that your rental is about 8,000. As soon as you get a tenant in, you need to pay that agent 8,000, and then you'll start cash flowing positive if you did run your numbers correctly from that next month. So now, what does this mean if you overprice? What's literally going to happen is that you will be getting tenants, and those tenants are going to leave. They won't hesitate. So you'll be paying those 1 month's payments every month. I don't know until when, until you decide that, you know what, price is actually determined by the market. Same goes to selling a property. The price is determined by the market. Until you understand how to read the market, hit the link below if you don't know what we're talking about, if it sounds as if it's a foreign language, so that we can actually discuss this. What do we mean in greater detail? How can you determine the price based on what the market is doing?
The last point that we'd actually like to speak about is the exit strategy. So now I hear a lot of people saying that, you know what, I'm in love with rental and I'll only do rental. So now something that I want you to really consider is that something that Neo always says is that the first property that you're going to be buying, chances are you're going to sell that property. So now the question then becomes that how long are you actually going to be holding the property for? So now it does happen that you get into a situation whereby you want to reinvest the money in a different property, and that might actually give you a greater ROI. So now if you bought the property at market value, and when you do sell this property, you aren't able to actually make a profit, that leaves a sour taste in your mouth, because now you can't move out of that particular property. You are literally bounded to that property. You would need to hold that property until it appreciates to a point whereby you will actually be making a profit. So now that's a situation that I personally don't want to see you in it, right? So now every time when you're thinking about buying a property for rental, just prepare yourself financially and also emotionally that chances are I might need to actually sell this property in the next coming few months. Even if you don't actually sell it in the next few months, but at least you would have actually known, or you would have a peace of mind that if I do need to sell this property, it won't be a problem to me.
So let's get deeper into perspective of what do I mean when I say that there's a high possibility that you're going to sell the first property. What I'm saying is that it's simple as playing chess. Would you sacrifice a pawn in order to get somebody's queen? It's a no-brainer. So as you grow in the property industry, that's what we've seen in our journey, is that the more you grow is the more you realize, do I still need to keep that property or not? As a property investor, you need to constantly ask yourself that question each and every year. Because once you start focusing on, I've got 8 properties for 20 years, not understanding that, are these properties really worth keeping? Or should I actually upgrade towards better properties or a better strategy? As we did mention, even under strategy of rental, there's different types of properties that one can actually buy into. So you'll find out that as a beginner, you were actually focused on development. However, now you can see that maybe development is not the way to go. And then you know that, okay, let me try out this strategy. So it's very important to constantly evaluate and prepare yourself, because now if you didn't prepare yourself for exit, this is what's going to happen. You bought the property at 800,000. Let's just say worst case scenario, it didn't increase in value, or let's just say it increased. Best case scenario there, let's say it did increase with 100k. So now you need to actually consider how much did you invest in that property. Because with property investing, it's not that I bought it at 800,000, I sold it at 850,000, I made 50,000 profit. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way in property investing. So if you want us to actually even go more into this, hit the link below and let's see how can we help you.
Make sure that you have actually subscribed to our channel, man. Know what?
Invest like a pro.